And good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking right now, evacuations in Nevada as the Hawk wildfire explodes. Fire crews racing to get it under control. We're live on the fire line. Also breaking, President Trump making a new threat of more tariffs on Canada as talks between the two countries fall apart. The products you could now pay more for. Last-minute drama in the South Carolina Senate runoff. Can Darlene Graham pull out a win after a debate snafu? And the latest in the high-profile case of a Massachusetts mom on trial for killing her 3 kids, with closing arguments set for this week. And good to be with you this busy Monday, August 24th. There's a lot to get to this morning. We begin this hour with breaking news: a human-caused wildfire burning out of control in Reno, Nevada. Nearly 90,000 residents have been urged to evacuate their homes. Flames from this fire so high they jumped clear over fire trucks. Fueling these monster flames, windy, dry conditions that are only expected to get worse this week. Nevada's National Guard is mobilized to assist crews. Local officials have not provided any details on what specifically sparked that fire. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson is on the fire line. Steve?
Hey, good morning. This fire now racing to more than 15,000 acres. It's injured 6 people, including 3 first responders. As firefighters, hundreds are now doing all they can to keep the flames at bay.
This morning, a state of emergency is growing in Nevada as firefighters race to contain a rapidly expanding wildfire near Reno. From the ground and the air, authorities now saying the fire was human-caused and an investigation is ongoing. The fire exploding in size over the weekend, destroying homes and forcing more than 40,000 people to evacuate.
We slept in the car last night. It was a little rough.
Video showing the scary moments as dark smoke and embers filled the air.
Came out the front door and it was literally right at the very top of this ridge.
An additional 45,000 residents are also being encouraged to leave.
With our wind conditions, with our fire conditions, if you're in the yellow and you can leave, please leave.
Hot temperatures and high winds adding to the challenges for firefighters on the front lines. It comes as almost 50 million from California to Mississippi remain under heat alerts. Some parts of the Southwest expected to reach up to 115 degrees today. Dallas reporting its first heat-related death of the season over the weekend. The heat also a concern in Indiana. Thousands are still without power and air conditioning, more than 10 days after severe storms wreaked havoc on the region.
It's been absolutely horrible.
More storms are expected in other parts of the country, while many Americans look for relief from the wild end of summer weather.
Officials here say several structures have burned, although they're still assessing the damage. The fire, meanwhile, is burning out of control. No containment as firefighters are doing the best they can to keep a perimeter around city centers. Send it back to you.
All right, Steve Patterson, thank you for that. Those same hot, dry conditions fueling the Hawk fire are fueling dozens of others across the U.S. NBC News meteorologist Andrea Romero is tracking the extreme heat. Andrea?
Christine, we have over 75 wildfires right now burning in the lower 48. We can see them stretching all the way from the Pacific Northwest into parts of California, the Four Corner states, and even into parts of the southern plains. Right now, we do have red flag warnings up for parts of the Pacific Northwest due to those gusty winds that are just fueling the fires, 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. And of course, the heat is not helping. That's also adding to that wildfire danger. And it's also scorching the southern tier of the U.S., where we're expecting record high temperatures throughout the next couple of days. We have over 48 million people that are being impacted by these heat advisories, these heat warnings, some of which go through Saturday over in parts of Arizona, even parts of California. The southern heat will continue throughout this week. Tomorrow, today, we're looking at temperatures that are going to be in the triple digits here along the Gulf Coast. We're also adding the humidity factor, and that, of course, is leading to heat indices that will be in the triple digits as well. And the night temperature is not dropping much, so we're not seeing much relief, and that's why it's so dangerous to deal with these temperatures for such an extended period of time. And we see no relief through late week, with temperatures still close to 115 degrees in the desert Southwest. And as far as the rainfall, as far as the threat of severe weather, well, we do have some strong front, severe storms that could develop today along the northern plains. We have that monsoonal moisture combined with a cold front that will continue to trek on eastward into tomorrow. And we also have some rainfall that we're monitoring across the southeast portion of the U.S. And we're expecting that cold front to sweep into the upper Midwest tomorrow with the slight risks for severe storms into the high plains. Of course, we're talking about damaging wind gusts and, of course, the possibility of some hail and even some isolated tornadoes, as well as torrential rainfall. And as far as Tropical Depression Moki, we continue to monitor it. It is passing south of the Hawaiian Islands, but the flood potential is still there for today into tomorrow. Christine?
All right, Andrea Romero, thank you so much. This morning, the United States has renewed a trade war against one of its largest trading partners. The Trump administration has now imposed new 50% tariffs against $20 billion of Canadian goods. Now, these new levies, they went into effect over the weekend and will likely raise prices on everyday items you purchase, like dairy, clothing, building materials, hockey equipment. Marathon talks took place last week to avoid these new tariffs, but ultimately broke down at the 11th hour. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed his country.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
Why does it feel like today Mark Carney is going to war? Trade war. The tone.
Because we were attacked. Like you're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked.
Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez and business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Gabe, we heard from the U.S. Trade Representative this morning, and he had a different take. Tell us what the difference is between the U.S. and Canada here.
Well, the administration sees this very differently, Christine. They are trying to argue that Canada has been ripping off the U.S. for far too long. And in addition to those tariffs that we had heard about last week on those high-sold items, I should point out, just within the past few minutes, we have some breaking news. President Trump posting on social media saying that on January 1st, again, on January 1st, there will now be 50% tariffs on all cars, trucks, and automotive parts and steel, that those tariffs will be increased to 50%. That has the potential to have huge economic consequences here. And as you mentioned, the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer was interviewed earlier this morning. He described why these trade talks collapsed last week with Canada. Let's listen.
Simply, they wanted more. I don't know if it was political for them. It certainly doesn't make economic sense, but perhaps for political reasons, they have some by-elections coming up. I don't know, but they came in and they wanted more, and we weren't prepared to do that.
So there had been an escalating war of words for quite some time now. We've seen between the U.S. and Canada, with President Trump repeatedly mocking Canada as the 51st state, now escalating this to some very real potential economic consequences that American consumers might feel. But Jamieson Greer, earlier today, he's trying to argue that this only affects a small percentage of overall trade between the U.S. and Canada. So he's downplaying the consumer impact of all this. But still, a lot of questions moving forward, Christine.
I mean, he is right there, guys. And Brian, I'll bring you in here. He's right about that's 5% of what Canada sells the United States.
It's not everything.
The concern is, though, that tit for tat, if you start going back and forth here. And you've already got inflation higher than is comfortable in the United States. So you could see holiday decor, wine, plywood, all of these things, they could be more expensive for American shoppers.
Yeah, and again, when we get to January 1st, if there is no resolution on what Gabe was just saying with that fresh round of potential 50% tariffs on auto products coming in from Canada, that can make buying a new car a lot more expensive as well. We had already been talking about this a year ago when some of the proposed tariffs on automotive products coming in from Canada and around the world could have threatened to increase the cost of a new vehicle by thousands of dollars. We can now be facing the same thing because you have to remember we get a lot of our vehicles from Canada as a result of some of the infrastructure that was in place under NAFTA and then after USMCA for building automotive vehicles across Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. But to your point, these types of tariffs, now that they've taken effect as of this weekend, they could threaten to raise prices for a lot of those things going into the key holiday retail season. We know that tariffs don't necessarily lead to dollar-for-dollar increases in prices the day after they're put in place. But if you think about the fact that it has historically taken a few months for that to bleed through, where does that take us? It takes us close to around that key Black Friday shopping period where some of those goods that could be tariffed now from Canada could get more expensive. So if you try to buy a hockey stick, for example, for your kid who might play hockey later on this winter, that could get 50% potentially.
It's interesting, too, that late last week we heard the administration was considering lowering tariffs on ground beef, imported ground beef, because that would help beef prices in the United States. The same administration that says tariffs don't cause higher inflation.
Right. They seem to acknowledge the impact of some of that.
Sometimes, but sometimes not.
Right.
Not. Gabe, Carney said in that press conference the U.S. was trying to restrict Canada's trade deals with other countries, infringing on its sovereignty. What more are we learning about why these talks broke down?
Well, the U.S. Trade Representative Greer said earlier today that actually it appeared that these talks were going pretty well as of earlier last week, as of Tuesday. But then those talks broke down because, as he put it, Canada wanted more. I do find it interesting, Christine, that Greer also said that while there are no trade talks scheduled with Canada at this point, and the administration is now preparing options for President Trump to respond to Canada's retaliatory tariffs, we are hearing that there are trade talks scheduled with Mexico. And Greer seemed much more optimistic that there could be some sort of deal reached with Mexico, our neighbor to the south. But again, right now, a very icy relationship between Canada and the U.S., Christine.
Icy, to be as icy as a Canadian pond, where you're playing hockey with sticks that will cost more if you buy them in the United States. Just quickly, Brian, Canada says it will retaliate dollar for dollar for these tariffs. That could be trouble for some of these states. I'm thinking Ohio, I'm thinking Iowa, Pennsylvania, Alaska, Maine, where so much of their economy is exports to Canada.
Well, the Midwest, you think about some of these dairy, agricultural equipment tariffs that you see on the board ahead of you. These are the industries that Canada is targeting. As Mark Carney says, they're going to respond dollar for dollar. Electronics is going to be big. We're already in a chip shortage, so that can make a lot of those types of goods more expensive as well. But again, I think you already mentioned this. This is the beginning of what could be tit for tat that increases the range and industries that would be covered under this trade war between the U.S. and our neighbors to the north. And this might just be the beginning of that unless there's a de-escalation if talks resume at some point.
All right. We know you guys will be covering it for us. Gabe Gutierrez, Brian Chung. Thanks, guys. Voters in South Carolina, Oklahoma, and parts of Georgia head to the polls tomorrow for a trio of runoffs to decide who will appear on the November ballot. That includes the battle to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham in Congress. His sister, Darlene Graham, was appointed to fill his seat for the rest of the year. But now she's running for a full 6-year term. She faces Congressman Ralph Norman in that runoff. It comes as a top Democrat appears to extend an olive branch to the White House ahead of the midterms. NBC News has learned Hakeem Jeffries recently met with President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Joining us now, NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. Ryan, this meeting took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, it sure did, Christine. Democrats are hoping to flip control of Congress this fall. So the fact that we've learned about this possible back-channel meeting involving a top lawmaker and one of President Trump's closest unofficial advisors is notable. New details this morning about a recent meeting involving President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Hakeem Jeffries, the top Democrat in the House. A source familiar with the meeting telling NBC News the two recently met privately to discuss areas where Democrats could work with the president. The New York Times, which first reported the encounter, said it happened in recent weeks and that housing, immigration, and the high cost of living were among the topics. Kushner is not officially part of the administration, but has worked behind the scenes as an envoy on Middle East issues.
It's one thing to have a meeting. It's another thing to see something real come out of that.
News of that meeting comes as President Trump's influence over his party is being put to the test amid a sagging approval rating. Just 33%, according to one recent poll. The president working to turn out supporters who may be less likely to vote in the upcoming midterms.
Pretend, please, that I'm on the ballot.
The political spotlight also back on South Carolina, with a Republican runoff in the race for the Senate seat held by the late Lindsey Graham, pitting 5-term Congressman Ralph Norman against Graham's sister Darlene, a political newcomer with the support of President Trump, who rallied for her on Friday.
She loves South Carolina. She's going to be a great senator, I think.
But some Republicans question her readiness, especially after this moment in a debate last week.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security.
Her opponent seizing on that fumble.
She's a propped-up candidate. There is no training on the job.
Graham, who took her brother's seat after his death, pushing back.
The critics say I shouldn't run for the Senate They say I'm not a politician. You know what I say? Guilty as charged.
And heading into this vote tomorrow, you have to wonder if President Trump might be setting expectations. He touted the power of his endorsement in a Truth Social post overnight in Republican primaries, but said that the few that lost were done out of loyalty, saying for some it was impossible for them to win. Well, Darlene Graham is hoping that Trump's unequivocal endorsement is enough to win over some skeptical South Carolina Trump supporters. Christine.
All right, Ryan Nobles. Thank you, Ryan. After weeks of testimony, closing arguments are expected to begin as early as tomorrow in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. The jury will have to decide whether the 35-year-old mother should be held criminally responsible for the killings of her 3 children. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the latest from outside the courthouse in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Emily?
Hey there. Well, this case has become a legal and cultural lightning rod for postpartum mental health, with people tuning in from across the country and, as is expected today, turning up in person to witness what will likely be a final day of testimony in Lindsay Clancy's murder trial. We should warn you, some of the details are disturbing. Lindsay Clancy's widely watched triple murder trial now entering its final stretch.
Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy.
The defense rested its case on Friday with testimony from a forensic psychiatrist who says Clancy was in a state of psychosis when she strangled her 3 children in 2023.
It was almost like she was a puppet and someone else was pulling the strings.
The televised trial has drawn nationwide attention, particularly exploding on social media, with tens of thousands of videos weighing in on both sides of the case.
I am not in support of Lindsay Clancy.
I am Team Lindsay. Last week, hundreds gathering outside the courthouse in support of Clancy. Her defense does not deny she killed her kids, but argues she should not be held criminally responsible because of postpartum mental illness, worsened, they say, by more than a dozen powerful medications prescribed in the months before. While prosecutors allege the former labor and delivery nurse's actions that day were deliberate.
This was a woman who acted intentionally, rationally, and swiftly to accomplish a very specific goal: to kill.
Arguing Clancy intentionally sent her husband out on errands while she strangled their children and then threw herself out a second-story window, leaving her partially paralyzed. Jurors have already heard from dueling medical experts, first responders, and family members.
She told us that she had thoughts of harming the children.
Even Clancy's now ex-husband was called to testify, saying this about a conversation they had days later.
She said she heard a man's voice telling her that if she didn't do it now, she would lose her chance.
Clancy, at times, overcome with emotion as the details were shared in court.
We're going to take a break this time.
Soon her fate will be in the hands of a jury, which will decide if Clancy's actions were the result of a psychotic break or a calculated killing.
It's asking the jury to look into Lindsay Clancy's mind and make a determination about what her state of mind was at the time the crime was committed.
And we're expecting the prosecution to wrap up their rebuttal witnesses today and then move in to closing arguments. Legal experts say this could come down to a battle of the experts in which the jury members find most credible. Back to you.
All right, Emily Ikeda. Thank you, Emily. Joining me now, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris, who you saw there in that piece. We have just heard you mention how difficult this is going to be for the jury. It must be, listening to all of this testimony. How do the weeks of testimony make it harder for them to reach a decision on her mental state?
Yeah, it's really complicated because this isn't a whodunit. So it's looking into her mind at the time the crime was committed and making a determination about whether or not she knew what she was doing was wrong, or could she control her actions? That's the central question. 70 plus witnesses for the prosecution, 10 witnesses for the defense, and now all this expert testimony. So the jurors are going to have a lot to weigh. They're going to go in with their own common sense and life experience and look at all of that evidence and ultimately determine whether prosecutors made their case.
One of the prosecution's final witnesses takes the stand again today. What's the strategy behind putting this particular witness at the very end of the trial before the closing arguments?
So prosecutors had to put a witness on the stand that's an expert who can explain psychosis, can explain Lindsay Clancy's state of mind to the jury in order to make their case. They have the burden of proof. Even though the defense is raising the lack of criminal responsibility defense, the burden never shifts. So prosecutors needed to do this. Now, there was strategy there, Christine. They could have put an expert on in their case in chief. Instead, they waited for the defense to put their experts on and then brought experts in rebuttal. So they're very pointedly talking about what the defense expert said and coming to a different conclusion. So that was definitely a strategy move and probably the right one. Why go outside what the defense has raised? Instead, just attack that conclusion.
Misty, this jury, all of this very public coverage of this trial, all of this just grueling testimony, this jury has not been sequestered. Are you surprised by that?
No, the jury's not sequestered. It's a really high bar. It's difficult when you have a trial that's this long. You know, we're talking about going into week 5 to sequester the jury. But keep in mind, the judge speaks to the jury every day before court and after court, reminds them of their obligation to stay away from social media, not to consume any news about this case, and asks, is there anything that's changed that would make it so you cannot go into this ultimate deliberation without bias?
It wasn't long ago. You just had to avoid a newspaper or the evening news. But now this trial is everywhere. That's right. Misty Maris, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Up next, the battle over President Trump's new ballroom. What happens now after the Supreme Court allows construction to temporarily move ahead? Plus, all the sights and sounds from the first ever IndyCar race in Washington, D.C. Our reporter's inside look. And the latest foodborne outbreak, what is actually safe to eat anymore? Our doctor joins us live. We'll get you current after the break. President Trump can keep building his ballroom for now. The Supreme Court on Friday issuing a temporary block to a lower court order that would have halted above-ground construction as the court weighs whether the president can move forward with this massive project without congressional approval. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now. Monica, this ruling is just temporary, essentially to give the court more time. But if construction is moving forward, is all the legal debate moot at some point?
That's sort of what the White House is hoping here, Christine, and they have made this argument that the building is already 65% complete and is essential, according to the president, to national security. So he wrote thanking the justices, essentially saying he was grateful for this decision on Friday because he does believe it's going to be the greatest ballroom/military complex anywhere in the world, which is how he is framing it. But remember that the sort of price tag to all of this has changed. The purpose to it has changed as well, and that is why some of these groups were suing and criticizing the president for knocking down the East Wing and trying to build this ballroom without what they say is the authority to do so. But the president has sort of been trying to tie these two concepts together, saying that there is an underground 5 stories deep military structure and something that would include facilities and secure locations that's essential. And the ballroom, which is that 90,000 square foot amount, would go on top of that. So he is saying he believes this could be done by the time he is done with his term in office, but we'll see once the Supreme Court actually weighs in with a final ruling about giving him the go-ahead on that. Christine.
Monica, the president says the project is under budget and insists it will cost taxpayers $0. But there have been plenty of questions about public money being used for parts of this project. What do we actually know about who is paying for this ballroom/military complex?
Yeah, and initially, remember, the estimate was about $200 million. That quickly ballooned to $300 million. And now the president says it's more in the $400 million zone. But some estimates imply that it could be even higher than that. We know that there have been companies that have donated to this. The White House put out a partial list last year, which does include Comcast, our parent company, in addition to other major corporations. But in just the last couple of days, the president has been implying that he may release a full list of those names. But when he does say that no taxpayer money has been used because of these private donations, we should point out and fact check that a little bit, because we know, according to government databases, that actually millions of dollars in Secret Service funds were redistributed from other needs to the White House for security enhancements for the complex overall. So some of that money could be and likely is going toward this massive project. So there are still some questions about exactly how much taxpayer money is going toward this, but the president is insisting that the bulk of it is coming from these donations. Christine?
All right, Monica Alba, thank you so much, Monica. All right, from a radio reunion to an unexpected meeting in New York City, let's get you politically current on the other headlines we're following today. In a plot twist that few saw coming, Michael Cohen is apparently back in President Trump's good graces. Cohen's lengthy full interview with Trump aired on his radio show last night. They touched on Trump's ballroom, the economy, and the infamous hush money trial. Cohen even quoted a Bible verse about forgiveness, while Trump bonded with him over their claims of weaponization. The duo had a major falling out in 2018 when Cohen pleaded guilty to crimes that implicated the president. They had been publicly feuding ever since. And a private arbitrator has ordered the Washington Post to rehire opinion columnist Karen Attiah. She was fired in September over her social media post about assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The arbitrator said that the Post, quote, did not have good and sufficient cause to terminate Attiah and that they had violated its labor agreement in doing so. Meanwhile, Attiah said in a statement that she hopes the decision, quote, sends a message to journalists and media institutions everywhere that freedom of expression is always worth fighting for. And Dr. Mehmet Oz is contradicting the president. In an interview with CBS, he clarified that the MMR vaccine is not a lethal vaccine. The American Academy of Pediatrics says extensive research shows the vaccine is safe and effective in reducing the risk of measles. Dr. Oz's comments come after President Trump claimed without evidence that the combined measles shot could be quite lethal. Measles cases in the U.S. have risen to the highest levels in 35 years. Still ahead, beachgoers in Florida get a lot more than sun and sand. The coastal crash landing that was caught on camera. Plus, a new burglary at the home of an NFL player. More than $300,000 worth of luxury items taken. We have more current right after this. From a crash landing on a beach to the manhunt for a police officer's wife. Let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. Police in Massachusetts have now issued an arrest warrant for the woman sought in her police officer husband's death. The warrant charges Karen Solomon with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Solomon was last spotted on ring cam nearly a week ago, the same morning her husband was found dead. Police say she should be considered armed and dangerous. Beachgoers in Boca got a lot more than they bargained for over the weekend. A small plane crashed into the Atlantic off the Boca Raton coast on Saturday. The crash landing was caught on camera by people sitting on the beach. The pilot was the only person on board. She made it out safely. Mother Nature has one more celestial display in store for us this summer. On Thursday night, the Earth's shadow will swallow 98% of the lunar surface, likely casting the moon in a crimson glow. It's what's known as a blood moon. It'll be the closing act of a trio of space delights this summer that also included a solar eclipse and a stunning meteor shower. This morning, we're following another food poisoning outbreak. Health officials are investigating an outbreak of E. coli and salmonella tied to alfalfa sprouts. They're linking the outbreak to the Minnesota-based grower Everything Sprouts. The CDC says at least 55 people across 15 states have gotten sick. Alfalfa sprouts are just the latest in a growing list of food recalls this summer. Joining us now, NBC News health reporter Aria Bendix and NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, most food poisoning outbreaks tend to be defined by one type of germ. This outbreak involves multiple bugs. Does that change how people are treated?
Well, it certainly, Christine, can change how we approach managing patients in terms of prognosis and things to look out for. Look, both E. coli and salmonella are known to cause diarrheal illness, so they'll have a lot of overlapping symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, belly pain, fever, and diarrhea. However, in rarer cases, E. coli can cause, a potentially life-threatening kidney issue. Salmonella is more likely than E. coli to cause what we call invasive disease, which is treated, differently than just the typical rest and rehydration that we use for mild to moderate infections for both. So again, it's more about knowing what potentially could happen than how they are immediately managed in the short term.
Are we seeing more food recalls than normal, or is it the public is hyper vigilant because of the fallout from that cyclospora outbreak earlier in the summer?
Yeah, it's a great question. We typically see around 300 food recalls per year. This year, we're at 178, so that's roughly on pace with where we were last August. So the answer shortly is no, we are not seeing more food recalls. But this year is unique in terms of the number of illnesses, and that is because of that cyclospora outbreak. In lettuce that just really has taken off. And that understandably has more people paying attention to food safety maybe than they were before. And so that's really the explanation here for why this feels like a big deal this year.
I'm certainly washing more vegetables than I used to. Dr. Azar, with so many recalls to keep track of, how should families navigate mealtime, whether they're eating at home or they're going out to eat?
You know, we've talked about this before, Christine. I think the number one thing that you need to do if you are watching and listening at home is to really be alert and aware of recalls that are affecting foods that you buy. Because we're hearing about this and because we are reporting on it and other networks are reporting on it regularly, people should be able to stay informed and make informed decisions about what they purchase. If you are really, really concerned, you can certainly start doing some canned foods and some frozen foods and things like that in terms of produce. But, you know, I just really do want to remind people that the vast majority of our food supply is perfectly safe. I myself have continued eating fruits and vegetables this summer with some extra precautions, as we've discussed.
Aria, last week the U.S. hit more than 15,000 confirmed cases in that cyclospora outbreak. One of the biggest outbreak of its kind, right? How do we get here? Now that some weeks have passed, do we know what happened?
Yeah, I mean, we got particularly unlucky with this outbreak. We see cyclospora cases every summer, but this one was an iceberg lettuce. So that's a very popular food item that's consumed raw, meaning there's no heat to kill that parasite. It was also sold at a widely popular restaurant chain, Taco Bell, Walmart, a widely popular grocery chain. And then cyclospora itself is really difficult to test and trace because some people don't develop symptoms for weeks after eating that contaminated product. And in that time, much of the lettuce that's worth testing could have already been eaten or thrown out. So it's a tough one to identify. And that really slowed us down in terms of getting control of the outbreak. It's also an opportunity to think about where we get our produce from. The U.S. is increasingly reliant on Mexico as a supplier for produce. That creates some additional challenges with inspecting facilities or testing produce that's imported into the U.S. So it's a chance for regulators to think about how do we improve this system.
All right, Aria Bendick, so much. Thank you so much. And Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you. And now to the latest hit in a string of brazen burglaries, this time targeting the Texas home of Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has the latest on the break-in.
Another daring burglary targeting one of football's biggest stars, a suspect breaking into Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb's home in Texas. Lamb was at the Cowboys training camp in California when more than $300,000 worth of items were stolen, including 4 luxury bags, according to police records obtained by the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. In a statement, the Fairview Police Department saying evidence obtained indicates a single suspect entered and exited through the window, adding several high-end personal items were taken. Now the urgent search to identify and find the suspect. NBC News has reached out to the Cowboys, who say they have no comment at this time. Lamb's team has not responded to our request for a statement. It's the latest in a string of high-profile burglaries. Last month, Philadelphia Eagles running back Saquon Barkley's home was broken into while police say he and his family were inside.
When something like that happens, you can be shaken up.
Our NBC Philadelphia station spoke to Barkley after the burglary.
It made me a little more aware that I got to be a little more sharper with my security.
The NFL has previously told athletes to avoid posting in real time on social media, installing security systems, and keeping valuables out of plain sight to avoid becoming the next target. Valerie Castro, NBC News.
The league has been the subject of recent debate on whether transgender women should be allowed to participate. Earlier this month, Freedom announced he would declare for the WNBA draft to challenge support of the athletes. Joining us now, NBC News sports reporter Rohan Nadkarni. Okay, so Rohan, the WNBA and specifically the Indiana Fever have been the subject of recent debates involving transgender athletes. There's never been such a player in the league, but oh my gosh, it's all anybody's talking about. Can you catch people up on this ex-NBA player's involvement in all of this controversy?
Of course. You know, this really started when Fever player Sophie Cunningham gave an interview with ESPN. She mentioned keeping biological men outside of girls' locker rooms, which has kind of been the catchphrase du jour of the people on that side of the debate. You get people like Enes Kanter and Royce White, former NBA players, who are basically using that side of the culture war to inject themselves into the situation, and they both said that they are declaring for the WNBA draft. They're claiming that they're women, and they're saying that basically the league's rules say you only have to declare yourself to be a woman to kind of play in the league. So these people are kind of making this gesture supposedly on the behalf of women's rights to say that they are women and they want to play in the WNBA. That's how Enes Kanter's kind of been involved. And last night he kind of took that protest in person, so to speak.
Enes Kanter Freedom was quickly ejected from the game after this altercation or display. How is he responding?
He's tweeting. That's what he's done in a lot of these situations. He's tweeting. He tweeted, I just got kicked out of a WNBA game for supporting women. He tweeted later that evening, shortly after this, it's always women hating on women. So again, I'd say he's kind of leaning back into this whole thing, which is, again, under the guise of protecting women in sports, with certainly the optics of him last night getting into an argument with the literal women playing. He's been someone who for years has kind of done stunts like this for attention, including when he was in the NBA. That seems to be kind of continuing here.
Yeah, so much discussion about WNBA is not about the basketball, but about all of this stuff going on around it. Have we heard anything from the league in response to last night's events?
Not from last night yet. There hasn't been a WNBA statement as of the time that we got on this call for this interview. But the league's in a tough situation here, I should say, because as you've mentioned throughout this, everything that happens in this league turns into kind of a third rail culture issue. It's so far removed from the actual basketball being played that I think the league is being very measured here, treading very carefully.
All right, Rohan, thank you so much. Coming up, economic D-Day of the Trump administration unveiling new sanctions on Iran today, leaving Americans bracing yet again for higher gas prices. Plus, new details on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal relocation to the UK. How Meghan's return to acting may be a factor. We'll get you current after this. President Trump is hours away from imposing what he calls an economic D-Day on Iran. In a Financial Times op-ed out today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent described it as, quote, the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. He's set to unveil the sanctions at 2 p.m. Eastern today. Meanwhile, Iran is responding. A spokesperson for the foreign ministry called the threat of sanctions, quote, economic terrorism. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley is in the region. Matt, President Trump has repeatedly said Iran is decimated, its leadership is in disarray. If that's the case, what part of Iran's economy could the White House target that would make a real difference?
Well, there are a lot of things that past U.S. sanctions have not really touched. And the fact is that, these sanctions, when we're talking about them, President Trump acts as though he's going to be ramping them up considerably. Scott Bessent said the same thing. Iran has been the most sanctioned country, arguably, in history. Before Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2022, Iran was the harshest sanctioned country and had been for the past several, really, decades, generations. So it's hard to see any other opportunity for how to sanction Iran. But, one of the things that they could kind of do is move into areas that don't involve defense or security for the Iranians. Remember, back in the 1990s, the U.S. had very strong sanctions against Saddam Hussein and in Iraq. That caused starvation in that country. Efforts toward imposing sanctions on countries since then have tried to avoid burdening or hurting the civilian population as much as it did in Iraq back in the 90s. But it's possible the Trump administration could decide to do that again, leveraging things or putting levies against things like food, energy, things that civilians use, though that could be very controversial.
Or it could try to go after whoever is buying Iranian oil through transshipments or on the black market. And we know that China is a big purchaser of Iranian oil. That would be another angle that could have all kinds of different complications. Meantime, the head of Pakistan's army is in Tehran today as the country tries to play mediator. What kind of regional pressure are we seeing to end the war?
Yeah, we're really seeing a lot more regional pressure from the Gulf countries who are very eager to try to see an end to the fighting, though it looks as though the Gulf countries haven't been hit recently. Iran itself hasn't been hit by the U.S. since late July for almost a month. So things on the more international region-wide war level have been kind of diminishing. But the situation still is one where we're seeing countries like Pakistan, which had participated in those original negotiations to end the fighting that started back in late February. They're still in the mix, but we haven't actually seen any major convincing moves toward full-on negotiations that could end the fighting and finally open up the Strait of Hormuz.
And Matt, just quickly, we know a lot of House Democrats are asking the Pentagon to share the true cost of the war. Hegseth, the Secretary Hegseth said it could be more than $37 billion. But do we have any idea what the number really is?
Yeah, when you're counting in other factors, it could be tens of billions more, and that really could become an issue on Capitol Hill and for those upcoming midterm elections.
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you so much for us in the region there. And now to what some Britons are calling a royal pain. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing a lukewarm welcome after announcing their return to the UK as rumors swirl that Meghan wants to return to the screen. NBC News international correspondent Ralph Sanchez has the latest.
With Harry and Meghan's return to the UK just days away, major questions remain unanswered about their new life in Britain. Starting with how long will the family stay in the prince's home country? Their two children, Archie, 7, and Lilibet, 5, are due to start school in September. But a spokesperson for the couple telling the New York Times they only plan to spend an extended period in the UK this autumn. Another question mark over Meghan's potential return to acting. After shooting to fame for her role in Suits, she stepped back from TV work upon marrying into the royal family. Now, there are widespread reports she's in talks with Netflix about a possible role in gangster comedy series The Gentleman, Netflix declining to comment. Action! And perhaps the biggest question of all, can Harry make peace with his brother William, the future king? Harry has had several recent reconciliation meetings with King Charles, who's undergoing treatment for cancer.
He said life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has.
But there's no sign of a similar thought with William. In his memoir, Harry claims his brother physically attacked him in 2019, an allegation William has never addressed.
William feels deeply betrayed by all the allegations and all the things written about him.
The last time the brothers were publicly seen together was 2 years ago at a family funeral. One chance for them to reconcile, next year marks 30 years since the death of their mother, Princess Diana. Ralph Sanchez, NBC News.
All right, still ahead, move over Usain Bolt. Humanoid robots break speed records set at the Beijing Olympic Games. And next hour, California puts new pressure on Paramount, the new demands for the merger, and why talks were called off at the last minute. We have more current right after this. E-bikes and scooters are becoming more popular with kids, but doctors say they're also seeing a downside, a big downside. More children are showing up in emergency rooms with serious injuries after crashes, and experts say parents may not realize just how much risk comes with these rides. Here's NBC News correspondent Vicki Nguyen.
You see them on sidewalks and streets across the country. Electric scooters, bikes, and even trikes equipped with motors that enable them to hit speeds up to 30 miles an hour. But with no federal rules on the minimum age for riders, more and more kids are hopping on. Jamie Klein gave his son Garrett this e-trike for his 12th birthday, thinking it was safe with a max speed of 15 miles an hour.
Do you think people looking at this realize how potentially dangerous it can be?
Nope. Not until you get on it.
Klein says while riding, Garrett looked over his shoulder to check on a friend. When he turned back around, he slammed into a parked car in their Stoughton, Wisconsin neighborhood.
If you saw what happened to Garrett, you would understand that the angle of the seat and the handlebars, if you were to impact something, your body is just going to pivot forward. This is what hit his face.
X-rays show Garrett shattered his right cheekbone, an injury that required 3 surgeries to rebuild his face. New data shows emergency room visits for e-bike and e-scooter injuries among kids and teens have jumped more than 600% in the last 3 years, with head and neck injuries among the most common.
We're hearing and seeing this across the United States.
Pediatric emergency doctor Nick Cannell says he's now treating at least 1 child a day for e-bike or scooter injuries at American Family Children's Hospital in Madison.
What kinds of injuries are you seeing in the ER?
We're seeing severe head injuries with skull fractures and bleeds. We're seeing injuries to the extremities, and we're seeing internal injuries even to the organs inside.
He says e-bikes' quick starts, stops, and high speeds are especially dangerous when combined with kids being inexperienced riders and distracted by cell phones.
I don't think that parents truly know the severity of the injuries that we're seeing with this.
Experts say before buying one, parents should check the age recommendations, talk about the risks, and make sure their child always wears a helmet. As for Garrett, the now 15-year-old is ready for sophomore year.
What are you looking forward to now that he is mostly recovered?
Being able to interact with his friends again, make new friends, graduate high school, and then hopefully have a successful future.
Vicki Nguyen, NBC News, Madison, Wisconsin.
All right, important information for parents there. This weekend, the world watched as humanoid robots showed they could run faster than humans. Robots smashing Usain Bolt's 100-meter speed record set at the Beijing Olympics. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer has more from the World Humanoid Robot Games in China.
Christine, it's back to the future here. 2,000 robots on 700 teams competing in events ranging from kickboxing to Tai Chi, even mundane stuff like connecting cables. All of it designed to showcase how the robotics industry is evolving here and to get attention, which isn't hard. When some of the robots are running so fast, there's a padded wall and a stretcher at the finish line.
Chinese robots are now outrunning the world's fastest humans. Tiangong smashing Usain Bolt's world record in the 100 meters, then broke its own record in the 400 meter with its trademark lean that's going viral here called the Shy Run. The tournament meant to display feats of science, but also how seriously China has made robotics a national priority here. This engineer saying the consumer market is the real goal.
A lot of robotics companies in China are building machines that can box or kick better than most people. But the bigger test for robots here is in skills that are useful.
Things like folding laundry and stacking boxes, the sort of at-your-service tasks that have long nurtured the notion robots could one day have a place in homes.
Andrew, this is very good. Thank you, sir.
Yet none of what's shaping the future here will be in the U.S. anytime soon. The Trump administration banning imports of newly made foreign humanoids and quadrupeds, citing national security concerns. While China has a clear lead in manufacturing and scaling robots, the technology itself still has some kinks, fumbles, and sparks. This flame out last week capturing attention. A reminder that in all the high-tech hype here, maybe the human race is still ahead.
There's entertainment value, too. People can be wowed by the speed of some of the robots, but everyone here seems to prefer when they trip over their own feet. It's the second year that the Robot Games have been held in Beijing. It's heavily promoted by the government, part of a strategy to turn the spectacle of all of this into a commercial industry and ultimately an economic win for China. Christine?
All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you so much. There's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. And good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking news, the trade war flares between the U.S. and Canada as talks between the two countries collapse, the products you could now pay more for. Also breaking, evacuations in Nevada as the Hawk wildfire explodes. Fire crews racing to get it under control. We're live on the fire line. The latest in the high-profile case of a Massachusetts mom on trial for killing her 3 kids, with closing arguments set for this week. And we have all the excitement from New York City as the U.S. Open tennis tournament kicks off, the key players to watch, and the new viral drinks that have people lining up. And it's good to be with you this busy Monday, August 24th. There's a lot to get to this morning. We begin with breaking news. The United States renewing a trade war against one of its largest trading partners. This morning, President Trump threatening new 50% tariffs on all automobiles made in Canada starting January 1st. This is in addition to the 50% tariffs on some Canadian goods that went into effect over the weekend on everyday items like dairy, clothing, building materials, and hockey equipment. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed his country.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
Why does it feel like today Mark Carney is going to war? Trade war.
the tone?
Because we were attacked. Like you're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked.
Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, tell us more about these new automotive tariffs that we've just heard the president declare will happen on January 1st. That's in addition to what we had go into effect over the weekend, right?
Yeah, that's right, Christine. Look, we've been hearing about 50% tariffs on several household goods and everything from refrigerators to liquor. We have been hearing about that for several days, but just about an hour ago, a little over an hour ago, you see President Trump posting on social media right there saying on January 1st, tariffs on all cars, trucks, automotive parts and steel will be increased from 50%. That is potentially huge economically, Christine, as you well know, on how much business Canada and the U.S. do when it comes to the auto industry. We have known that auto execs have been urging the Trump administration to refrain from these types of tariffs really since the beginning of his second term. President Trump, has been repeatedly saying that he loves tariffs, that he views that as a way to get manufacturing back in the United States. And his administration is doubling down here. We also heard from the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer earlier today during an interview on how he described these trade talks between the U.S. and Canada collapsing last week. Let's listen.
Simply, they wanted more. I don't know if it was political for them. It certainly doesn't make economic sense, but perhaps for political reasons. They have some by-elections coming up. I don't know, but they came in and they wanted more, and we weren't prepared to do that.
So that interview was earlier this morning, Christine, and Greer had said that the president was being presented with options to retaliate in response to what Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, said would be Canada's retaliatory tariffs. And yes, just a short time after that interview, we saw that post from President Trump with those 50% tariffs on automobiles, Christine.
You heard him there, Jamieson Greer, the trade representative, talk about maybe internal politics inside of Canada. There's broad support in Canada for Mark Carney as they see him standing up to the United States and the insults of the United States. Not broad support in the United States for potentially higher prices. Talk to me a little bit here about the press conference that Carney had there. And he also said the United States was trying to restrict Canada's other trade deals, maybe some of its own other sovereignty issues. What more are we learning about why talks broke down in the first place?
Well, Greer denied that there was any, attempt for the U.S. to meddle in, any sort of language issues when it comes to, the French. In any case, the administration is downplaying any sense that it's trying to delve into these trade deals. What it says is that it's trying to make the argument. It's trying to make the argument that it merely is trying to level the playing field here. And what Greer is trying to stress is that that only a small fraction of overall trade between the U.S. and Canada will be impacted during those first round of tariffs that we heard about last week. Only about 5% of the trade between the U.S. and Canada here. But Christine, no trade talks are scheduled between the two countries at this point. Trade talks are scheduled between the U.S. and Mexico for later on this week. Greer seemed more optimistic. There might be some resolution there. But at this point, this trade war between these two longtime allies appears to be escalating significantly.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. Joining us now, Chief Economic Correspondent at Axios, Neil Irwin. It's so great to see you, Neil, this Monday morning with more trade war flaring up between the U.S. and Canada. The Wall Street Journal out with a new op-ed this morning calling this the dumbest trade war. We've heard that from them before. Writing, one reason for Mr. Trump's frigid approval rating is that voters believe Mr. Trump is waging blunderbuss wars without a strategy, and on trade, they're right. I wonder, what is the U.S. strategy here? You've got broad support inside Canada for, as they see it, standing up to the U.S. bully. And then you've got the president right away coming back and saying, actually, we're going to even do more tariffs. We're going to do tariffs on cars, too.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. If you talk to economists and you ask why didn't the tariffs last year and the trade war last year do more damage to the U.S. economy, one of the answers is because North American trade, the USMCA between the U.S., Canada, Mexico, was intact and remained in place and created this kind of free flow of goods in North America. This is essentially undermining that and essentially creating a situation where we're escalating with Canada and Mexico might get caught in the kind of crossfire. Look, as Jamieson Greer said in the clip just showed, it's not that this immediate hockey sticks and a few other things is going to have a disastrous impact on inflation and prices, but the fact that we're in this re-escalation phase and we don't know where it ends, that's what raises real risks. The North American auto supply chain crisscrosses the border all back and forth all the time. So we're creating a world where this longstanding ally that we've had a trade agreement with since 1988 is now in doubt, and the politics are better for Mark Carney than they are for Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, we just showed all those items on the screen, and that's about 5% of U.S. 5% of what the U.S. buys from Canada there. But the auto thing is much more dangerous, I think, because you've got many decades of this intertwined auto industry that USMCA had been written to sort of address. The president himself, the president of the United States, he once called the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement the best deal that had ever been done. And now it's not anymore. I think it's why Mark Carney said, the United States promises are written in pencil, Neil. Yeah, look, the USMCA was negotiated by President Trump in his first term, passed by Congress. It's something like 800 pages. It's very detailed. The ability to kind of, on a whim almost, walk away from these things that are codified and lengthy, detailed negotiations off of this kind of late night agreement that broke down clearly on Friday is a sign of the times and a sign that this administration is doing things differently in terms of how it approaches trade policy, less methodical, less kind of grounded in passing laws through Congress than in the past. And that's hard for businesses to plan around. What's the tariff on this good or that good from Canada next month, next year? Well, we don't know. Are we going to have 50% tariffs on autos in January? That would be a very big deal if that goes into effect. All right, Neil Irwin, so nice to see you. Thank you from Axios. We're following breaking news out of Nevada on a human-caused wildfire burning out of control in Reno. Nearly 90,000 residents have been urged to evacuate their homes. Flames from this fire so high they jumped right over fire trucks. The windy, dry conditions fueling the flames also fanning concerns from homeowners.
Oh my gosh, I'm still scared to death. It's like you don't know if the winds are going to shift and it's going to get worse, so you're just kind of, I got all my stuff in my car and in his car, so we're just like ready to go if we need to go. Nevada's National Guard has mobilized to assist crews. So far, more than 15,000 acres have been scorched since Saturday. Local officials have not provided any details on what specifically sparked the fire. Joining us now in Reno, Jaden Zelms from our affiliate KRNZ. Jaden, you're in the evacuation zone right now. What does the neighborhood look like there?
Yeah, good morning, Christine. You can see behind me that mountain that is completely burned here just a few miles north of Reno in the North Valleys. We want to show you this neighborhood where the weekend when the Hawk fire broke out, it got dangerously close to touching these houses. The firefighters were able to set up a perimeter line, but it was confirmed that structures have been lost, and you can see the neighborhood is completely dark. Currently, around 20,000 Nevadans are evacuated from their homes in the Go Now red zone of the evacuation perimeter. Around 22,000 in the get set to evacuation area. We are keeping our eye on that perimeter map as it has exploded since yesterday, and also 10,000 residents through Reno, Nevada, in the Nevada and Lake Tahoe area are without power. It's a sad day here in Reno as the fire continues to burn westward now. Again, 15,000 acres burned, and that fire continuing to burn, 0% contained. What we're keeping our eye on this morning is flare-ups. That's when previously burned ground like the mountain behind me can re-spark up. Also confirmed by fire officials this weekend that fire was human caused, and there's now an investigation. Christine?
Yeah, you say it's 0% contained. We're seeing pictures of, firefighting efforts to try to get it under control. What are fire crews doing right now?
So the last numbers show that there's nearly 800 first responders working on the Hawk fire. Also just confirmed that Sacramento is sending in more air support. So what they're doing in these urban areas, that's the big thing they're trying to protect. They are setting up perimeter lines to protect all of the residential areas. Like I said, it was confirmed structures were damaged. That's even more north of where we were. The fire broke out initially on Saturday in the Verdi area, continuing to burn. Also air support with those 800 personnel. The thing is air support, as well as tactical on-the-ground coverage, trying to create a perimeter, stop the fire from getting to the urban areas.
All right, Jaden Zelms from our affiliate in Reno, thank you so much. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, high temperatures, gusty winds really making it hard for them to get this under control. How much longer are those conditions going to last?
Well, the first thing I noticed when I looked at Jaden was her hair wasn't blowing around. So that's always a great sign for firefighters. And that's what we were hoping. Ever since we had the really dangerous conditions where the fire exploded and it was just jumping fire lines, the weather has cooperated since then and it has been better. But we're at the peak of fire season. So any day that we get these hot conditions and the dry, gusty winds, we can get fires that can just rapidly explode. This is it. Over the next about 2 months is what we call the peak of fire season. So for today, right now we're looking at 75 large fires as advertised all season long. Oregon and Washington State have by far been the worst, but we do have some that are burning in California, Colorado, Utah. Many areas here have seen on and off fires, even in Colorado. Today, the dangerous areas, because of the dry conditions, gusty winds from Twin Falls heading over through southern portions of Oregon, some gusts 20 to 30, but where the Hawk fire is, we're not expecting that. We'll maybe have some winds, maybe 10 to 20. So today's a day they should get more containment on that blaze. An elevated risk as we go towards tomorrow jumps to the north into areas where we have a bunch of big fires, so they could actually get a little bigger. So today's a day that firefighters wake up, Christine, and they think that they have the upper hand. It's a good day.
All right. In addition to these heat alerts, what else are you keeping an eye on this week? Busy week.
Mostly the hot temperatures in so many areas. We're waiting especially for areas like Dallas. I know they'd like a break. Las Vegas, your weekend was just middle of summer type heat, and you're still in it today. Dallas, all the way back up to Oklahoma City, Phoenix, and Tucson, all under excessive heat warnings, and 108 in Dallas. This may be the hottest temperature you're going to have until next summer. So survive today, and slowly it'll get better after this. A lot of areas that are in the southeast, it's still very humid, so the afternoon is still very uncomfortable. Tomorrow, Dallas, 105. Phoenix, still 114 degrees. And as we go late into the week, it's not like with quote-unquote relief, but it is a little bit cooler at least. Dallas, we have you staying in the hundreds. And Dallas is on quite a stretch now of 100-degree temperatures. Now we're well into week 3 in a row. We're waiting to see if this is going to last all the way into September. Phoenix, that's not unusual for you, but a lot of people don't exactly call Dallas the desert.
Yeah. This is check on your elderly neighbor weather.
Yes.
That's definitely what this is. All right, Bill Cairns, thanks so much, Bill. All right, voters in South Carolina, Oklahoma, and parts of Georgia head to the polls tomorrow. One key race to watch is the battle to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham in Congress. His sister, Darlene Graham, was appointed to fill his seat for the rest of the year. She's now running for a full 6-year term, despite never before seeking public office. Graham faces Congressman Ralph Norman in the runoff. Graham has come under some scrutiny for saying during a debate that she was, quote, not that informed on national security. She addressed concerns about her experience in an interview on Fox News.
I'm experienced. I'm just not a politician. But you know what I say? Who else wasn't a politician when they started the job? Our president, right? President Trump.
Joining us now, NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, he is also backing Darlene Graham, Ryan. He called her the easy choice for the Senate. What else is he saying?
Yeah, it is interesting, though, Christine, that Tim Scott waited until after the initial primary results before he got behind Darlene Graham and is now supporting her in this runoff election. What Scott has said is that he has gotten to know Darlene Graham, and what he has is the viewpoint of her performance in the Senate as a fellow senator in the short time that she's been in the job. Listen to what he told our colleague Kristen Welker this weekend on Meet the Press about Darlene Graham, the senator.
I watched her carefully for 30 days in the Senate, casting deciding votes for the AG, working on getting her first bill passed, the Russia sanctions bill. What did I assess? Highly qualified, incredibly competent, ready for prime time.
So that is one of the biggest questions that South Carolina voters have right now is she up to this job, especially because unlike this Senate appointment, which will just be until the end of the year, they are asking her to sign up for the next 6 years, especially when they had someone like her brother who was so experienced in the ways of Washington. She comes in with somewhat of a blank slate. Now, her message to South Carolina voters, Christine, is that the fact that she's not a politician is what makes her special, and that's one of the reasons they should vote for her tomorrow.
Hey, Ryan, how has her opponent, Ralph Norman, reacted to President Trump and others supporting her in the race?
Well, he's basically said you can't trust what you don't know. And Norman understands he's not going to get the president's endorsement. He's clashed with Donald Trump before he endorsed Nikki Haley during the 2024 campaign. Norman says, I've got a track record. I've been doing this job for a long time. You know what you're getting with me. Don't take the risk. And whoever wins that argument is going to be the next senator of South Carolina.
All right, Ryan Nobles, I know you'll be watching. Thank you. After weeks of testimony, closing arguments are expected to begin as soon as tomorrow in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. The jury will have to decide whether the 35-year-old mother should be held criminally responsible for the killing of her 3 children. Prosecutors say Clancy's actions were calculated and methodical. The defense argues she was driven by postpartum psychosis combined with antidepressant drugs. It's a trial that has gripped global attention and fueled online discourse, putting postpartum mental health in the spotlight. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo and NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Nice to see both of you. Let's talk first, Stephen, about this prosecution's rebuttal witness here, a forensic psychiatrist who evaluated Lindsay Clancy after the killings. He's back on the stand today. He tested on Friday that Clancy was not in a state of psychosis. What more are we expecting him to share?
Yeah, they really picked up right where they left off from Friday this morning. The cross-examination continuing from defense attorney Kevin Reddington, and things getting pretty tense on the stand with Dr. Avram Mack, the expert from the prosecution side. They're really going back and forth over the definition of postpartum psychosis, the symptoms that are included in there. And as you mentioned, Dr. Mack concluded from his assessment that Lindsay Clancy was not in a psychotic state whenever these killings took place. So as you can imagine, that was pretty tense, the defense's chance to counteract that narrative that we saw come out of the other expert testimony. But they're going to continue with potentially 2 more rebuttal witnesses for the prosecution as well, and they're expected to be tense.
Misty, it has been weeks of testimony that has been emotional from mental health experts, hospital staff, law enforcement. As we near the end here, what are you listening for during closing arguments?
So the central issue is Lindsay Clancy's state of mind at the time of the killings, and that's taking the mental health issues, the diagnosis. Is it depression? Is it psychosis? And putting that aside to a certain degree to talk about the legal standard, which is different than a medical diagnosis. Did she know right from wrong, or could she not control her actions? And that's going to be central in those closing arguments to both sides.
Stephen, once the case is in the hands of the jury, what happens next?
Yeah, so the 12 jurors will go into deliberations. They can write questions if they have them. And of course, this could take days. This could take hours. It's really, there's no set time. And then once they reach a verdict, they will, of course, announce that to the court. They are required to be unanimous, though. And if they do not reach that unanimous decision, the judge will urge them to go back and try again, but it could end in a mistrial if they do not reach that decision.
And we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but walk us through the options here. There are a few verdict options available to this jury. Walk us through them.
So the highest level crime, premeditated murder with extreme atrocity and cruelty. That's murder in the first degree. Also, murder in the second degree is an option. That's a murder that is not premeditated but is intentional. Then you have lack of criminal responsibility, which is right from wrong, lose control. And then, Christine, there's a debate going on right now that the judge will rule on later today. Will involuntary manslaughter also be on that verdict sheet? That would be reckless disregard for a known risk. The defense wants that. The defense also wants an instruction on involuntary intoxication, saying the taking of the medication, the side effects of the medication, or the titration, weaning off of the medication, impacted Lindsay Clancy's mental state, made it impossible to formulate that intent.
It'll also be interesting what kind of questions maybe the jury asks as they get in there with their notepads and all of these 5 weeks of emotional testimony. I mean, were they moved by all of this conflicting reaction from the medical profession?
Yes, and I think another piece of this, the jury in this jurisdiction will have a lot of the documents that went into evidence in that jury room with them. That's not always the case. They can ask for readbacks of testimony. Yep. But Christine, just a reminder, there's certain things we did not see as the public. We did not hear the 911 call. We only know the content. We did not see the autopsy photographs that are a central part of this case. The jury did. So that's going to be in there as well.
All right, Stephen Rowe and Misty Maris, thank you so much. Another high-profile case we're watching today, the Tupac Shakur murder trial. The witnesses set to take the stand. Plus, California's Attorney General calls off talks with Paramount over its planned takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. What changed at the 11th hour? And the surveillance company Flock says it's making changes to address privacy concerns. But the people targeting the cameras, they are not convinced. We'll tell you why when Current returns after the break. In just a little bit, week 2 is set to begin in the murder trial of Tupac Shakur. Dwayne Davis is accused of orchestrating the rapper's killing nearly 3 decades ago. Jurors have already heard from nearly 24 witnesses. Many of them were once at the center of the 90s notorious gang wars. They've also heard from Davis himself through years of recorded interviews. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin joins us now. Nearly 24 witnesses, Dana, the juries have heard from. What did we learn that could really shape the case as week 2 gets underway?
Yeah, Christine, I think the most damning piece of evidence that we've heard so far is that recording from that 2008 interview with investigators where we hear the defendant, in his own words, describe the before, during, and after the murder of Tupac Shakur. And in that, you hear how he got the gun, that he passed it to the back seat. He claims that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, was the one who actually opened fire. He even described details about Tupac trying to scramble to the back seat. So that information is pretty solid in when you think about just hearing something so detailed come from the defendant's own mouth. Now, back then, there was a proffer agreement by investigators so that Davis would not be prosecuted for what he said, but a decade later, he wrote that memoir detailing his involvement in Tupac's murder, and that's what really opened this case wide up, and investigators went after him, and it seems like his words are now coming back to haunt him. Christine?
Looking at the week ahead, Dana, who should we be watching for in the courtroom this week?
I think the big person that we're waiting to hear from is Suge Knight. He is still on the witness list. He survived that shooting, and he's previously told people publicly that he is not going to testify. Now, keep in mind, we've had other witnesses who did not want to be there, but they didn't want to be held in contempt. So that's why they showed up. Right now, Suge Knight is serving a 28-year prison sentence for an unrelated voluntary manslaughter case. So he may appear via Zoom from prison, or they may compel him to go in person. The only thing is the state won't tell us who they're calling, on which date. And sometimes witnesses are placed on lists and they never get called. So it's a big mystery right now.
And at this point in the trial, what's the biggest challenge prosecutors are facing here?
The biggest challenge is going to be the defense's strategy to paint the defendant as a liar. If they can convince even just one juror that this guy was lying, it could result in a mistrial. So I think that's the biggest thing. Also, the second thing is Davis claims that Sean Diddy Combs paid a hit for Tupac's murder. Now, keep in mind, Diddy has said that he was not involved and he has never been charged in a crime. So introducing that could also sow some confusion for the jurors. Christine?
All right, Dana Griffin, thank you so much. All right, a Hollywood plot twist. California's Attorney General cancels talks with Paramount. Negotiations stemmed from a suit filed by 12 attorneys general. They're suing to block Paramount Skydance's proposed $110 billion merger with Warner Brothers Discovery. California AG Rob Bonta accuses Paramount of leaking details of the talks to the press and acting in bad faith. NBC has reached out to Paramount for comment, and we have not heard back. Joining us now, entertainment journalist Brian Balthazar. Okay, so talks canceled. What do you make of this new plot twist?
Well, it's really interesting because we got a lot of intel, what we thought was accurate intel probably from those meetings on Friday. But these demands that we're hearing are actually what Bonta is saying may be mischaracterized, among them selling off several networks within the proposed merger family, also accepting structural changes to the combined company and keeping Paramount and Warner Brothers movie studios operationally separate. Now, obviously, these are things that would probably reasonably be things that Bonta would say and ask for. But the fact that he's saying that this was mischaracterized is interesting. Now, obviously, there is a great incentive for both sides of this to move this along, but particularly Paramount's, because beginning on October 1st, it starts costing them about $7 million a day, because that cost per share goes up every day that this is not resolved.
Yeah, that so-called ticking fee, where this really costs everybody money here. So we'll watch that drama there. Meantime, we're watching this copyright suit that's been filed against Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan. The accusation is that he stole someone else's pitch when creating the hit show. We should know that NBC Universal is also a party to this suit. Yellowstone and its spinoffs have been a huge success, financial and otherwise. How damaging could this be for Sheridan?
Well, it's difficult to copy. You can't copyright an idea. That's the difficult part. But what this person alleges, Lauren Salkin, says that she developed a concept and pitched it to Sheridan's company, and they said they were not taking TV ideas at the moment. Months later, it was announced that it was greenlit. She cites specific examples. Now, she's simply filed this lawsuit. What we still have to see is if it will survive a motion to dismiss. A judge may just say, forget it. There's nothing you can do here. However, if this goes into discovery, obviously Sheridan's side right now is looking into the digital footprint. We all kind of have computers that have the date and time we started developing ideas, and that's going to be where this ultimately will probably lie. But we've seen this happen before. The movie Coming to America years ago, a writer that wrote an article very similar to that movie ended up winning a judgment for about $900,000. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, and it'll be one we'll be following very closely. We'll see about 21 days before they have to respond with some sort of response to this lawsuit.
All right, Brian Balthazar making sense of all that for us. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
From Spider-Man dominating the box office yet again to a Department of Justice deal with TikTok, let's get you financially current this morning. Let's start with a live check on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average currently up about 130 points this morning, coming off a rough week under rising pressure from Treasury bonds and interest rates. This week, we'll keep our eyes out for any new data on inflation, earnings from AI giant NVIDIA, and a speech from the new Federal Reserve Chair on Friday. Turning to a new deal between TikTok and the Department of Justice, the DOJ reached an agreement to dismiss claims that TikTok and its Chinese parent company ByteDance violated children's online privacy protections. The deal requires TikTok to pay $400 million to settle allegations that it collected data on millions of children under the age of 13 without their parents' consent. And Peter Parker continues to climb at the box office. Spider-Man dominating at theaters for yet another week, netting $39 million this past weekend alone. It's on track to become the second highest grossing domestic release of all time. Up next, a mystery in Manhattan. New York City police investigating new images showing 3 people emerging from a manhole near Madison Square Garden. Plus, the growing controversy over flock surveillance cameras, the changes the company is now making in response to privacy concerns. We have more current right after this. From a sailor's father being detained by ICE to a mystery involving manholes in Manhattan. Let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. Sean Grayson, the former Illinois sheriff's deputy convicted of fatally shooting Sonia Massey, has died. Grayson shot Massey inside her home in 2024 after she called 911 to report a prowler. His death just 6 months into his 20-year prison sentence. The 32-year-old was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2023. It's unclear whether the cancer caused his death. The father of a sailor aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln is in immigration custody after being arrested in Florida. The Department of Homeland Security confirms Luis Manuel Aviles was taken into custody during a traffic stop in Key West. His family says he's been in the U.S. for about 20 years. He has a work permit. A DHS spokesman says Aviles entered the country illegally and will remain in ICE custody as he faces removal proceedings. And now to a mystery in Manhattan. New York police are investigating another case of people emerging from a manhole. 3 people in overalls appear with what appears to be headlamps were seen emerging near Penn Station last week. Police say there's no indication of a threat, but warn entering the sewer system is illegal and extremely dangerous. Right, there's growing backlash against Flock. Have you heard of this? Flock, it's a nationwide network of surveillance traffic cameras. The company works with police to track down alleged criminals, but it's faced a wave of scrutiny over privacy concerns. Last week, the company rolled out some updates. Going forward, it will only retain data for a week instead of a month, and it will flag any police officers who use the cameras to make unusual or potentially inappropriate searches. But not everyone is happy. One person who had been charged for vandalizing a Flock camera told NBC News, quote, long story short, the changes are BS. Joining us now, NBC News cybersecurity reporter Kevin Collier. Nice to see you. So part of the reason for these reforms is that actually people are physically harming these cameras, knocking them down. I mean, there are citizens or vandals or whoever who think that these things are just a public nuisance, not a help for society.
Yeah, they spray paint the lenses. They knock out the lenses with wooden poles. They run their cars into the poles and knock them over. They take saws to them. We were able to track 50 instances, and I don't mean individually, might be a single person who destroys 12.
Right.
So at least 50 different places across the country since 2024. where these have been vandalized in various ways. And this is, I've covered surveillance in various forms for 15 years or so. I've never really seen kind of a public outcry towards something that kind of tracks people essentially like this.
Well, it's like the public, the people who are so upset about it, they think it's sort of Big Brother or something at Minority Report, being tracked everywhere you go. That's sort of the chatter about it. On the flip side, though, police say they really like these cameras, right? They like them because it helps them do their job and it's good for public safety.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can find Flock will tout a lot of these individual cases where Flock information has helped to solve like a missing a stolen car, or someone who was involved in a suspected home invasion, something like that. I spoke with the undersheriff of Traverse City, Michigan, who said that, he put it most succinctly to me. He said, look, we don't have the man hours to always do stakeouts, and this can effectively serve as a stakeout in a lot of cases. So that's the kind of use case scenario for it.
Are they expensive for the police department?
Relatively speaking, no. So the most important thing that Flock does, as opposed to its competitors, is kind of a subscription service. Like the Flock owns the cameras, they maintain the cameras. If you are a police department, you just kind of you pay for the subscription, and they just take care of it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that helps if you've got budget crunches. Mm-hmm. Although on the other side, then you've got the privacy advocates who say, wait, now you're not hiring public servants. You're hiring you're hiring a service to do it for you. Kevin Collier, well, I know you'll continue to watch it for us. Thanks so much, our cybersecurity reporter, and welcome back. All right. In today's current checkup, as doctors and researchers continue to learn more about the wide impact of GLP-1s on people's health, some women are making a joyful discovery of their own. The term Ozempic babies is trending on social media after women taking GLP-1 medications reported unexpected pregnancies. NBC Connecticut reporter Brasida Landaverde spoke with experts.
An unexpected way into motherhood.
A lot of patients are going on these GLP-1 medications primarily to lose weight, and there's been an uptick in unintended pregnancies due to it.
Mother to Baby is a national nonprofit organization collecting research on GLP-1 medications and women's fertility. Sharon Boyer-Levine is the Connecticut coordinator and is a genetic counselor at UConn Health.
They're very popular now.
Levine says women are not purposely taking GLP-1s to conceive. Instead, she says research shows women who lose weight on the medications and who may have previously struggled with fertility are seeing a rebound.
So their fertility may have been suppressed because of weight or because of blood sugar control. And once they take these medications, their fertility returns.
Levine says addressing obesity before pregnancy is an important step in maternal health. According to Mother to Baby, being overweight can come with added risks, like having miscarriages, birth defects, and getting gestational diabetes.
You want to not have to deal with as many other medical issues as you can so that you can focus more on a healthy mom gets us a healthy baby, right?
Although the research shows women are seeing improvements in fertility, the manufacturers recommend stopping the shots or pills at least 2 months before pregnancy.
None of it is suggesting that there is a high risk for adverse pregnancy outcome or birth defects. So that's good news, but we don't have enough information to say for certain, is there any risk?
Studies including over 1,000 women using GLP-1s during the first trimester do not show an increase in the chance of birth abnormalities. That's according to Mother to Baby.
First trimester is when all the organs are forming. And so that's the period of pregnancy where we're most concerned that outside forces could potentially increase the chances for certain structural birth defects. So we're not seeing that.
GLP-1s are not recommended for expecting mothers because continued weight loss could impact the baby's growth and development and increase the risk of complications, including low oxygen levels, low blood sugar, high red blood cell count, and difficulty maintaining body temperature.
We don't have the same amount of information for individuals who continue to take the products in the second and the third trimester of pregnancy.
Dr. Jason Schneider with UConn Health is also following the breakthroughs in women's health and says he's seeing new evidence on how the medications may impact birth control.
It's important that if you're on oral birth control, that these medications can make them less effective.
As experts look to study more research, they say GLP-1 medications are emerging as another tool in the toolbox, helping women get in a healthier place before trying to conceive.
I think anytime there's something that can make us better, that can increase our chances of a healthy pregnancy and a healthy outcome, I think those are all positive things, and that we need to collect this information so that we can be sure there aren't any caveats or anything that we've missed.
And Bristida Lendeverdi, thank you so much for that. Still ahead, call it looks maxing, call it the beauty boom. We'll explore the growing trend of Gen Z guys getting into grooming. Plus, Serena Williams making a surprise return to center court, her plan for a star-studded doubles play at the U.S. Open. We'll get you current after this. By the way, a new drink coming up, serving up some competition for that fan favorite Honey Deuce, that $23 fan favorite Honey Deuce. This is the Moet Serve. It is packaged in what looks like a tennis ball canister. The price for this guy, around $40. That's about 12 cans of tennis balls, if you're counting, but of course, no booze. All right, now to the booming business of beauty. Men's beauty, that is. Guys are giving the old bar of soap a serious upgrade with multi-step skincare routines, high-tech beauty tools, even Botox and laser treatments. NBC News Daily anchor Vicky Nguyen takes a closer look at what's behind the glow-up.
Just to get ready with me, this is my evening skin without any filter. I feel like it's already toning my skin.
From multi-step skincare routines,
Step 5, vitamin C serum,
to anti-aging tricks,
this is what will have you looking like you're 20 when you're 50.
eye, face, and red light masks galore. More men investing big bucks in beauty.
Women have been ahead of us way too long. Get on this trend. Look your best. Be your best.
60% of men report purchasing products to maintain their appearance. That's up nearly 20% from a decade ago. With Gen Z driving the surge, more than 2/3 using facial skincare products, and many sharing their secrets on social media with hashtags like men's beauty tips.
Cleanser, toner, sometimes it's like serum.
Hypochlorous acid, then I'll come in with a toner, exfoliating pad.
I double cleanse, and then I rotate between retinol and niacinamide.
Michael William, Ethan Pena, and Paul Hanna are all self-described skincare enthusiasts.
What got you started on your skincare journeys?
I started really having terrible acne in high school, and so I think it sort of was bred out of necessity.
Work is really driving everything. We're living on camera all the time, and so it's like I need this face to like look a certain way.
It started with my girlfriend. She's taught me everything about skincare.
Those self-care routines coming at a cost.
How much are you spending on your skin and your hair care?
$200 every 2 to 3 months.
I think I'm in the same price range.
It's an investment. I think we should leave it at that.
Also cashing in on the men's beauty boom, celebrities John Legend and The Rock launching their own skincare lines.
We have peptides, we have hyaluronic acid, we have niacinamide.
Justin Bieber recently partnering with wife Hailey on a special collection for her billion-dollar beauty brand, Rhode. But it's not just patches and potions. A growing number of men like Michael also opting for tweakments, like lasers, peels, and injectables that can cost hundreds, even thousands of dollars per visit.
When did you decide to take the extra step and start coming to a med spa?
This was after I turned 30, and it was a game changer. I think a lot of guys get really nervous that they're gonna leave looking like a Ken doll with huge lips. I still look like myself. I just look like I got some sleep.
The male aesthetics market, including treatments like Botox, fillers, and lasers, growing a whopping 70% since 2021.
I'm seeing multiple men a day. They are coming in and being like, you've been treating my wife for the past 3 years. I want to do what she's doing.
Molly Orden is a board-certified physician's assistant at Jecht Medical Spa in New York City.
What are the things men are asking for?
Jawline is a really big one. That people want a stronger, more enhanced jawline, more chin projection.
When considering a treatment, Molly says look for licensed medical professionals. Start with a consult to review goals and risks, and check before and after photos and read those online reviews.
And what's your message to men who are watching and skincare curious?
It's an act of self-care, just in the way that working out is, or eating healthy.
The only one judging you is yourself, so just get out there and do it.
I like to follow what Deion Sanders said back in the day. Look good, feel good, play good.
Vicky Nguyen, NBC News.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Up next, he goes by Killer Mike, and now he's helping Georgia families achieve their American dream. Meet the Grammy winner on a mission. It's part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And a lifeline for families in need, the Hawaii Hub coming together to serve hot meals and drop supplies to a community devastated by Hurricane Lala. We have more current right after this. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to the people making a difference in their communities. Today, we're in Georgia, where one Grammy Award-winning artist is helping renters become homeowners. Danielle Nottingham from our NBC affiliate in Atlanta introduces us to Killer Mike.
Y'all keep coming back to Bankhead. Thank y'all.
Inside Bankhead Seafood, Michael, Killer Mike Render, moves through greeting his customers.
Okay, thank you. All right. I am the American dream. I have been mentored by the daughter of someone who was enslaved in this country, and now I sit here an owner. I sit here as someone who gives people opportunity and jobs.
The restaurant is one of the Grammy Award winner's many business ventures designed to make sure the people who built Atlanta can afford to stay in it.
Because the black experience is a beautiful experience. I love our music. I love our sports. I love our solidarity in church. If we can take that solidarity that we have in our mosques and synagogues and churches, and we can put that into actionable businesses, families, and barter and service and exchange with one another, we can start to stabilize.
For years, Killer Mike has championed financial literacy and economic empowerment, creating a digital banking platform with former Atlanta Mayor and UN Ambassador Andrew Young, and investing in affordable housing on Atlanta's west side.
Why has this been such an important cause for you in your career? Because there's so many other things you can be doing, but you really focus on this.
I wanted to be an MC. I wanted to rock big jewelry. I wanted to rock fresh glasses. I wanted to be able, I wanted to be that. And what I understood is that when God gives you favor, God has some favors that you owe. And my life has been trained to serve my people.
This year, Killer Mike and his wife Shay launched Build to Ownership, a rent-to-own housing initiative that helps families turn monthly rent payments into a pathway to home ownership.
Y'all good?
Killer Mike says the goal is simple: help all communities thrive.
I think America is one of the best places in the world for economic opportunity and growth for people, period, and especially for people who look like me. Let's make this city, this municipality I'm in, this country, this state, the best place that children can come and get education, the best place that parents can provide a real stable life.
The American dream isn't just something Killer Mike talks about.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you coming.
It's something he's building. Danielle Nottingham for NBC News Now.
That's Danielle from our affiliate in Atlanta. Thank you so much for that, Danielle. Now, many people across Hawaii's Big Island are struggling after the devastation of Hurricane Lala. And for some families, getting basic necessities is still an issue. So now volunteers are finding unique ways to get help where it's needed the most. Mehalani Richardson from our affiliate in Hawaii has today's Bright Side.
In Ocean View in the Ka'u district, Hope Diamond Ministries lost its tent for services from Hurricane Lala, so Sunday service was held on an old lava field instead. Long lines of storm victims lined up for a hot meal and supplies. Several Ocean View residents living in their cars have no access to goods and services, and power has been out for more than a week. Meanwhile, volunteers are organizing private helicopters to make drops to isolated homes with no access to water, food, or supplies. Musician Kahi Young has never been in a chopper before, but is now delivering goods to about 18 families in need.
It means the world to get these babies fed, to get our kanaka fed, our kupuna. It's everything, and knowing that if I haven't taken this step and this initiative, the outcome could have been different. That family they had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. They were down to 4 bottles of water with a family of 9. And they've been calling and calling for help, and nobody's gotten to them. So since this past week, I've made it a point that I made sure those kids were eating.
Helicopters could not fly Sunday due to expected rain conditions on Hawaii Island. But Hope Diamond Ministry says it's serving 1,000 meals per day, regardless of the weather.
We don't have a church, we don't have a building, we don't have anything, but we don't stop, and we're here for the community, we're here for the people, we're here for the souls and all the people that are behind us lining up.
Sunday's meal deliveries were canceled because some Kona restaurants were either closed or drivers didn't want to make the 1.5-hour trek to Ocean View in stormy conditions. But these faithful say they're still finding ways to feed people in need.
So important to remember that recovery can take such a long time. Mahalani Richardson from our affiliate in Hawaii, thank you for putting a spotlight on it. That does it for us this morning. We are grateful you joined us today. NBC News Daily picks up after a very quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.